Welcome to Open Studio. I am Steve Leahy. So we have a brand new painting to start today, a brand new Open Studio. I've really enjoyed doing these Open Studios. They started out as just a kind of idea to show you guys what's involved with some of the paintings, and they've become so much more to me. They've actually become more of a repository for the way that I paint. It's nice to be able to document it, and it's more than just showing the end of the painting and say, here it is. These Open Studios have allowed me to show you guys everything about the painting, which has been really great in bite-sized pieces. So in the Open Studio, we've done a little bit of everything. I've done a car painting, I've done a motorcycle painting, I've done razor blade paintings. The one thing I haven't done yet is the landscape paintings, and it was kind of left till now because the landscape paintings are a little bit different than the other ones. They tend to take a little bit longer. They're more nitpicky, that kind of thing. And I wanted to make sure that I had just the right painting to do for the Open Studio. I've been working on this series of landscape paintings for quite a while now. I've done Boston and New York as well as Cincinnati. So each painting except for the Boston painting carries the name of the photographer that took the photograph. And this new one is no exception to the rule. So my beautiful stepdaughter Lachlan is currently on a school trip in Tokyo, Japan, and she had taken a bunch of really great photographs, and I asked her if I could use one. So this one will be a really interesting painting as opposed to the other ones where one was sunset and one was, kind of an aerial view. So this one will be nice because it's a little bit different in that it is cloudy in this photograph. Unlike some of the other Open Studios, I already have the title for this one because of that. And this one is titled Through Lachlan's Eyes. So a little bit of a disclaimer about this painting. These paintings are based in the massive detail that makes them up on this small scale. There's a lot of detail, but it is very repetitive. So there'll be a lot of instances where once I kind of lay out how I'm going to do it, it's just getting it done. The good news is it'll give us a chance to soapbox about a bunch of different topics. It'll give us a chance to kind of talk about different techniques, and it'll be a nice platform to kind of get all that done. So I'm really glad you're here for this one. I hope you all enjoy it, and let's get started. And here we are right at the beginning. Okay, so all these landscape paintings have been done on 063 aluminum, and 063 is the measurement of the thickness of this stuff. It's just very strong. Like you can't bend this. I mean, you could, but it would take a lot. So it's really nice. It's a stable metal. Of course, this looks pink. The only reason it looks pink is because there's a protective plastic on it. The stuff I have has a white powder coating on it. Now, like I said, this series has been going on for a while, and I prepped a bunch of these panels. All the paintings are the same size. They're all vertically oriented. They're all 2 inches by 4.5 inches. Don't ask me why I picked that size. It just kind of happened, and then I've been kind of sticking with that. I really like it, and that's the size. So again, these are all pre-prepped, and what I used way back when I did all these panels is an automotive, like a 2K automotive or solvent-based automotive primer. Now I use the Autoborn sealer from Createx, but back then when I started and prepped all these panels, that didn't exist. So that's why all these are kind of in the gray already. So, which is good because I need a gray anyway. Okay, so this painting, like I said in the beginning, is very complex. There's a lot going on in this. What I really love about this is that unlike the other paintings, this one is like just a bank of clouds above it, and then you're actually above the clouds here, which is really neat. I've never done anything like that. So even though it looks like an aerial photograph, like you were flying, like the Cincinnati painting, you're not. You're in a tower, but it's super high up. There's a ton of great detail in here, especially in the foreground, and then it kind of, fades away with all this atmospheric perspective because of the fog. So I really love it. You get the river going through, and then you can't really see here because the copies are in black and white, but this is a swimming pool on a roof, and it's bright green, so it'll be a great little like shock in the middle of this painting that's mostly gray. All right, so what I end up doing with this is I need to kind of get this prepped for the for what it's going to be. So what I end up doing now, again, this is incredibly dense, and when I'm done with this, I mean, you could just like, you know, kind of abstractly put the buildings in, have them, you know, pick out a few, you know, that really pop out, and the painting would be amazing. You know, it would be more of a kind of impressionist, abstract feeling of the city, where you'd have all these, you know, kind of just the pattern of the buildings generally kind of expressed. With these paintings, I don't try not to do that. What I really, really want is I want someone to say, oh, I had an apartment in that building right there, and my friend lived in that building right there. I really want it to be extremely accurate. And that's the beauty of it, to have it that small and be that accurate. That's really what I want to get out of this. As a result, I really have to pay attention to what's kind of going on and how I get things in, so that so each little building is actually represented. I know it seems crazy, but that's what these paintings are all about, and that's really what makes it. Now, the upside of that, or one of the nice things about that, is when I'm done, it will still have this feeling, like if you kind of squint your eyes, my painting will still have this feeling of this dense pattern in here, but it'll be because it's so accurate. It won't just be an impression of that pattern. It'll be the pattern, which is great. So it gives something to everyone. If they just kind of waltz by it, and when it's hanging on the wall, they'll know immediately that it's a city. They might not know what city it is, but they'll know it's a city. And if they get closer and closer, they'll be able to identify more and more. So there's something for everyone. Something who just wants the impact of the painting, and then all the way down to someone who wants to, like I said, see their apartment in this painting. There's something for everyone. All right, this is already gray, which is nice. But what I need to do is I need to figure out what the average gray is here, because that's going to be the base for this whole painting. Sometimes, like in the Boston painting, there were different areas that I could kind of block off, like there were brownstone buildings in the Boston painting, so a bunch of them were like this brick red color. And then there was some more like these concrete type buildings, so there was a section where I could block it off in gray. In Tokyo, or in this view of Tokyo, a lot of the buildings are gray, so that, you know, kind of makes it work. So what I need to do is I need to pick the average gray for this. So let's jump over to the photograph again, and we'll start making some decisions. And this is why we look at the reference photo. So, you know, I had in my head that this was mostly gray, and it is kind of a light gray overall. But you see there's a lot of variation in the building colors. That is actually going to work out really great for this painting. Again, my impression in my head, which is why, you know, we don't let our brain do all the work when it comes to paintings like this. Really try to let our eyes kind of figure out what's really going on. My impression was that it was all gray, but clearly it's not. There's lots of other different building colors in there, and you see that you know, the pool right there on the bottom, super bright, which is really great. All right, so the bottom line is, though, I still have to find out what the base color is here, because that's going to be what we start the whole thing with, and then all the other colors and values and different things are kind of put on top of that. It just saves us a lot of work instead of trying to, like, you know, paint the whole thing or start with a white ground and then just build up all these colors individually. If I start with a ground color, the average color, that gives me a good place to start, so that, you know, in those spots where, you know, maybe I could just put a little bit of detail or get the details in, the foundation color is already there. So that's really important. And it looks like it is going to be that light gray, I think. Now, looking back at the panel, this panel is probably a little bit too dark. So I think what we're going to do is we're actually going to spray this again with some Autoborn sealer. And that'll get us going. That'll get us in the right spot. Again, this is automotive primer. It's already been sanded. It's really in good shape. So it's just going to take a couple coats, really, which we can do here. Normally I would have to spray that and then let you guys go, or edit it, just so you don't have to sit there watching paint dry, because while you want to be here for everything, you don't want to be here for that. Literally watching paint dry is, you know, I mean, some people enjoy it, but it's not that exciting. So what I need to do this, and I have this already pre-reduced because I use a lot of it. This is Autoborn Sealer White with 4011 mixed in as well. And this is it says 15, but I've been bumping this up to 20%. I find that it for the little Grex gun I have for the tritium, this gun here, this is a 0.7 millimeter nozzle in it, which is a little bit smaller than what you would normally use to put the sealer on. Usually use a spray gun for the sealer, which has at least a 1.0 millimeter nozzle in it, but generally a little bit bigger than that. So I have to add a little bit extra reducer to this, but that's totally cool. What I am going to do though is I'm going to grab one of these little mixing cups here. I'm going to mix up the gray. I don't want to do this in the cup because I want to be able to see it. So I really want to get that light gray. So we're going to add, probably to cover this, about, I don't know, like 5 cc's, about that. That's going to be more than enough right there. So that's all I need for that. And then for the graying agent, I could use, well, yeah, why don't we? I was going to say, for this, because I'm not going to need a whole bunch of black, I could just use regular Createx Wicked Opaque Black. It's literally going to take a drop or two, 3 or 4. So the majority of the paint is going to be Ottobourne Sealer, but to make things kind of continuous, I'm just going to use a Sealer Black for this. Now, if I was doing a really super dark gray, then I would use the Ottobourne Sealer Black and then add Ottobourne Sealer White to it. Or again, I mean, for the most part, if you add like 1 or 2 drops of Ottobourne Sealer White to Ottobourne Sealer Dark, or Black, it's still going to give you a black. I mean, the black has much more strength than the white does. So what we're looking for is just kind of mixing this up, and I have the reference photo off to the side. So maybe maybe I can put the reference photo on here as well so you guys can see it while I'm mixing this. But what I'm going for is that lighter building color overall. So I'm just kind of sneaking up on it. I don't want this too dark, obviously, because this is the gray I have here is already there. So I don't, obviously, I mean, if I got all the way down to that gray, then I wouldn't even have to paint it. So we don't want that. We want to go a little bit lighter. This isn't going to be like, this isn't an exact science because there's so many values of gray in this painting that I could literally pick any one of them and move from that. So, so there's no like getting this wrong, essentially. It's just, you know, I want to get something that's as average as possible, because, you know, this will, again, this will make up a lot of the painting actually, because I won't have to paint this. I'll just have to paint around it. Does that make sense? So if I have the gray of the building already in, all I need to do is paint like the darker areas, and then that building is in. How's that looking? Let's hold that up here. Yeah, I like that. It's a couple shades lighter than what we got here, which I think is going to work really well. I'm not worried about the sky. You know, the sky is obviously a lot more pale, but I'll just do that when we get to it. So now that's good. And again, because this is pre-reduced, because of the white being reduced already, I don't have to add any reducer to this. I didn't add enough. The Ottobourne Sealer Black wasn't reduced, so I didn't add enough of it to really change the viscosity of this, so I can just run this the way it is. What we are going to do is mount that on a piece of magnet here. My goal for this episode is the introduction and then to get this based in, and that's what I'm hoping. So this is the piece of magnet that I usually use for these paintings. And again, this is just sheet magnet. I would love to put a link to this so you guys can find it, but I'm having a hard time finding it other than from like a sign shop or sign supplier. This is the magnet that that you use for those like magnetic signs on the side of your car. I bought some from Amazon, trying to find a good piece, but most of the stuff that I bought from Amazon or like, you know, even like a craft or art store is really thin. This stuff is really heavy, which is nice because it holds up against being painted on and messed around with. So what I would suggest to do if you're looking for this is get a hold of a sign shop, you know, get a hold of a sign shop that's nearby you. And ask them if they do magnetic signs. And if they do, ask them if you can buy their cutoffs. What's really nice is when they get down to the end of a roll, they can't use a small scrap that's left. But if you do small stuff, you know, you'll get a lot of use out of that. Or even if you buy a yard from them, this stuff comes on a big roll, like 10 or 50 yards, which, you know, you don't need that much. So, you know, I've had great luck with kind of hitting up the local sign shops. We have one here that the guy's great, and I get not only do I get, you know, magnet material from him, but also excess or extra masking material, transfer tape. Same thing with transfer tape. So that's that masking material that they use to transfer vinyl letters onto whatever they're working on. So when they're down to the end of a roll of that stuff, they usually just toss it. They can't use it because the pieces aren't big enough. But for masking, for me, it works out great. So I just, you know, I mean, well, this guy's great. He just gives it to me. But you could certainly offer the money and, you know, take the rest of it. So I just use a loop of double-sided tape, and now that's on there. And now I can do whatever I want with this. I can move it around. I can pick it up without touching it. It's just a fantastic thing. All right, so let's do this. Normally I would do this in the little spray booth that I have, but because we want to see it happen, I'm going to put the first coat on here. And I think what's going to happen is I may break, because this needs about 10-15 minutes to cure before I put the next coat on. So again, we don't want to end the video with me just watching paint dry. So there's the gray in there. Again, this should be done in the booth, but here we go. So with this, what I'm doing is, this has a nice spray pattern. It's about this big. So what happens is I'll put the first pass on, I'll move down and 50% down. So I've got 50% overlap here, and just keep doing that until I cover the whole thing. So that gives me that overlap that will really kind of keep it continuous. Now again, this is already gray, so you're not going to really see too much of that in the beginning. But as that builds up, that will shift to that lighter gray. But that's it. If I tilt this, I kind of see it. Yeah, there we go. If I tilt this, you can kind of see that light coat on there. Okay, so what I need to do is, you know, before I put the next coat on, I need to let this cure. This stuff is extremely strong. It's really, really great stuff. Sticks to everything. I talk about it all the time, and it's awesome. But you have to follow the rules with it. You can't over reduce it, and you gotta let it cure. So 10 to 15 minutes is like the minimum. But what really needs to happen is this needs to cure overnight, and then you can do some really great stuff with it. Again, because I have a primer already on this, I'm really just using it for the color. I don't have to wait the 24 hours. I like waiting 24 hours because when you sand it, it's amazing. It just really, really is cured in there. All right, so I'm going to break right here, and then we're going to jump back in and get the next coat on. Welcome back to 10 minutes into the future. Okay, this is all set. It already looks great. So I'm going to hit it again. I think we got one more coat, and then that'll be good. Because again, I'm not looking to actually put the base coat on. I'm using it to adjust the color. That was a bit heavy, not bad though, but it's definitely heavier than the last one. All right, again, I'm going to break again. We're going to wait about 10-15 minutes for this to cure, and then ready to rock. Time traveling again. So you guys are about 15 minutes ahead now. So I think this is only going to take one more. It probably didn't even need this one, but just to be safe. Excellent, and that's it. All right, so 10 more minutes. Be right back. Okay, so that's it. I was going to put another coat on it, but I don't think it needs it. Again, I'm just trying to change the color. I'm not really trying to go nuts with it. So the last thing I want to do is, since I've got this, I mean, this surface is really, really good. There's a couple little tiny nibs on it, so I just want to make sure that I don't have that. So what I want to do is I want to go over it really, really lightly. This, says 600 on it. Don't believe it. This is a really old pad, so this is probably closer to 1,000. So I just want to really lightly go over this. I should have saved, or I don't know if I have another panel that has the same primer on it, but again, I know it's probably difficult for you to see the difference in color, but it is a stage light or a step lighter, which is perfect. All right, so I've got all the little stuff off it. And again, when you let this stuff cure, again, it's been only about 15 minutes since the last coat, but when you do let it cure like this, or even after 24 hours, it just powders on the surface, so it really sands well. So that's the stuff I just took off. So if I just go wipe that on my jeans, it comes right off. It's powder. It's great. It's awesome. And then just to finish it up, I want to hit it with some Scotch-Brite. And that'll just smooth out any of the leftover sanding. And this guy is ready to go now. So I could have had it at this stage for you before we started, but I wanted to kind of show you the process to kind of adjust for that. Again, it would be nice if this was much more dramatic, like the Boston painting, where a majority of it was like brick colored. It would be the same thing. Or what I've also done in the past was block off bigger areas, like like the far, like the area in the background almost closest to the horizon is really light, so that would be one color. The buildings that would kind of trail through, if there was a common color, there would be another color. So it's big chunks, but this one I don't have to do that. All right, I'm trying to think if because the next episode is going to be a lot of cutting. What I'm going to do is for the next episode, we're going to start getting the basic shapes and the road map essentially. All right, so I think I'm probably going to call it right here. I think that's probably a good spot because I don't want to get too much into the other stuff until we can just kind of get through it. I don't want to break halfway through, and that'll be good. So again, thank you so much for hanging out with me on this brand new painting. Again, it's going to be a little bit more nitpicky than the others, even the Harley painting, but it'll still be worth it, especially now that the very first episode we're starting with this literally blank canvas, and by the end of it it's going to be this incredibly complex and detailed painting. So you guys will see where that actually comes from. All right, so you know what to do. Please hit that like and subscribe. If you are new here, welcome, and thanks for hanging around with us, and welcome to the family. And if you'd like to support what we do here, you can always do what these lovely people have done and support me in that way as well. That's great. Supporters get their own icons. They get early access to videos when I remember to set them up for early access. And they also get a discount on anything on the store, and that's a permanent discount, so you can use that even when there are no other sales going on. All right, so thanks very much. This is Steve Leahy. It's Open Studio. I'll catch you guys on the next one.